Bookman was about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. Full intensity or full intensity living. Turn stress into your competitive advantage. One of the advocacy of Mr. Nico Verresen. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Nico, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, I'm Nico. I'm from Belgium, and after a fight career of let me think, 14 years professional fighting, where I was European champion, vice world champion, tournament champion, and I've fought all over the world. I had a very heavy injury through which I detached my retinas, my eyes, 7 times. So after 7 surgeries, I finally decided to hang up the gloves. But I'm also a psychologist. I did my studies while I was fighting, and so I decided to really help people to do what I didn't do. I didn't take care of my body. I ignored everything, and I really forced my body to beyond what its capability was. So then I start to go really deep into helping first athletes and later CEOs and then sales professionals. Yeah.
Mr. Nico Verresen, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And let's talk about turning stress into your superpower in sales and business. What or yes, how do you define stress as a superpower in high pressure sales business context?
So the first thing, many people are told that stress is bad for us, but that makes absolutely no sense because it's such a basic reaction that our body does. It has to be very functional, and it is. Traditionally, Hans Seyler, the pioneer in stress research, called it stress the general adaptation syndrome. The problem that it was too focused on syndrome and not on the adaptive part. I like to call stress your general adaptation system. It is there to prepare you, to help you to have higher energy, more focus, and more persistence when you're facing the challenges in the world. That's a basic thing. Now, the problem is now when you get in too much stress, what people say too much stress is a bit too simplified. You have to go look at stress a bit more nuanced. So, in my eyes, there are two major kinds of stress. There's one kind of stressor that is a challenge in the external environment, for example, in relationships, in business, in sales, and that is there literally to help you guide the situation to the best situation possible. That's functional. And that's normal. Evolutionary speaking, if you were defending our tribe against a neighboring tribe, or if you were hunting after mammoths, we needed stress to be able to do it. You have adrenaline and cortisol, which raises your blood glucose levels, gives you the energy. You have higher heart rate and faster breathing, so you have more oxygen and more circulation. And when you were really in a fight, when you're in danger, your veins constricted, and then you would die, bleed out much less fast. But then after we found the mammoth, then we come back home, we celebrate together, we enjoy what we have with the people that matter most. So that was the normal, that's traditionally how it was. So very intense stress, but afterwards, very intense enjoyment of the simple things in life. Now, the problem the problem with stress is that many people get stuck in the second type of stress, what I call dysfunctional or self-created stress, where we start to create stress because of the meaning we hang up on everything, whereby we identify with certain things. where we get lost in negative thought patterns, where we start to stress about stress before we even have stress to stress about. So it's like this negative cycle. And then we get stressed, then we get angry that we get stressed, then we become anxious to become stressed. And so you have all these secondary, tertiary, and even more layers of emotions that make it very heavy. So, evolutionary speaking, after the event, after the survival, or after you won the prize, it was celebration time, relaxation time, because you had it. And tomorrow you knew you would have to do the same thing. You know, you can see it very often also in more primal tribes where people are living day to day because tomorrow is not promised. For them, the death is much more close. And so I think for in some weird reason, when you're in a situation where literally your survival is what you're busy with, that lowers your stress levels. Why? Because you value your life much more. Because then, with the focus on literally the survival, then all the rest becomes a bit less serious. Like, it will impact you less. So, but then in the current society, we're all thinking, and also we have been told that stress is bad for us. Now, I experienced the exact opposite. When I was fighting and I was facing a guy that normally I would win, I did okay. I did fine, but it was okay. But if they put somebody against me that had three, four, five times as much fight as I, that on paper I had no chance whatsoever, I outperform myself every time. Why? Because stress and excitement are neurophysiologically very similar. And I start to love stress. That's the one thing that I really miss the hardest. That charge before you go into the ring, before you step into the cage. That, yes, this is the moment I am living fully. That's the only thing I really miss from the, well, many things, but that's the most important thing. Now, then later, when I started working with clients as a performance psychologist, I start to see a similar thing with some. But most people that came to me, they came to me with burnout or because I want to perform more, but they didn't have more time, like they were already drowning. And there, I could see that they were losing so much energy, so much mental bandwidth in trying to run away from the stress, in trying to avoid that. And so one of the first things that we need to learn to do if we want to make stress our superpower is to embrace stress and intense emotions. I believe truly that evolution gave us these as a powerful compass, as a guideline of what we do and of what is important. Because if you stress and you ask yourself, yep, why do I care? Aha. All of a sudden you're looking into a window to what is important to you, what you really value. And then you can ask yourself, like, is that something that I value? Or is that something that I think I value? But actually, when I really think about it, I do not care about it, but the people around me do, the society around me do. So, like that, stress can be a really beautiful opportunity to really start to realign your life and start to stress only about the things that you truly care about. Also, when you believe that stress is bad for you, again, then after the fact, it will be much harder to let it go because you had stress all day and then at night you think, oh no, no, I was stressed, it's bad for my health, and you get bombarded with all these messages all the time. And then you can't sleep. And that's when stress becomes dangerous. When your mental processes are working so hard so that your cortisol levels don't drop and then you can't sleep properly. And lack of sleep, that is what is a big thing. Now, it's not just what I say, a growing body of scientific knowledge is starting to show that this is the case, that the way you think about stress can make it or your biggest obstacle, something that kills you, or something that heals you. For example, Dr. Elia Crum has seen that the people with the longest, most successful, and most satisfying lives were people with the highest stress levels. The highest. And then people think like, oh, why? Well, because they are living for what they care about. But there's one difference with the people that are suffering because of high stress levels. The difference is that they believe that stress is there to help them. They embrace it as a normal neurophysiological tool to leverage and get your goals fixed. You know? And so that is a longitudinal research where they saw it time and time again. But how does this work? Well, it has to do with our body. When we are stressed, we can have two kind of reactions. Even faced with a danger that is something that challenges our well-being, or it's an opportunity but we don't think we can handle it, then we get into the danger reaction. And what happens in our bodies is, again, same thing. Heart rate goes up, we get flooded with stress hormones, endorphins go up, so we have a higher pain threshold. But our veins constrict again because evolutionary speaking, that's normal. When you face a tiger, if he bites you and your veins are constricted, you have a bit more time to try to find a solution. Now, when you face a challenge, for example, you're with your tribe, you're hunting after a gazelle, you know it's not so much danger. It's a challenge. It's hard. You have to push. You need all that energy of stress, but your veins stay open. And so what happens then? Very interesting. Then your higher heart rate and your higher breathing rate will make sure that all the nutrients, all the oxygen goes to the cells that need it much faster, and it will clean all the nonsense out of you. And it doesn't stop there. Crum and her colleagues have shown that when you believe that stress is good for you, whether you're facing with a threat or a challenge, it has the same response. Both situations, even if you're faced with a real threat that you can't do nothing about, your body reacts as if it's a challenge. And what is even more fantastic, it's almost magical. I always had the feeling for this, but now like the science is showing it like black on white. When you have a challenge response, your brain, your nervous system releases DHEA, which is like an anabolic hormone that helps us to create the hormones to recuperate, to build new muscle, and neural growth factor, which helps us to create new neural connections. So, like this, stress makes us even healthier, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Very well said, Mr. Nico. Very well said and beautifully articulated. And what neuroscience explain how stress can enhance focus, motivation, and performance?
Well, first of all, you have the adrenaline, the cortisol, and that is very closely related to acetylcholine, which is one of the neurotransmitters that helps us to fire our muscles, but also helps us to focus. You know, so that's together because they work together because it's needed. Like imagine you are very lazy and you're working and you're falling half asleep, and all of a sudden your wife sees that you're fading and she knows that you need to wake up. She throws a bucket of ice water over you. All of a sudden you're awake and focused. It's a very stupid thing, but like that's it's really what happens, when you stress, your body reacts. Okay, it's time to wake up, because if I don't pay attention, I'm dead.
Yes, for sure. Something interesting, Mr. Nico, as a turn stress into your competitive advantage. What are your short term and long term goals?
For me,
Yes, sir.
ah, well, my short-term goal, I'm working together now with a team of former clients, and now we are working on a project to help people, to help other people more. We have a coaching business. We teach people how to create coaching business. But my perspective is much different than many other of those things, because I will, as a coach, you have to be what you teach. I see so many people, they coach everybody else, but then they coach people in things that they are horrible in. So they think that knowledge, will make a change. But what people don't realize is that 80% of success in therapy, and so very likely also in coaching, comes from the human relationship. That's quite logical. When we learn, it's not just the words, but it's when we are really in deep connection. We have a right brain to right brain connection. So that means that our automatically, without us trying, our brains start to synchronize. So if I have overcame a lot of obstacles, aha, then automatically their brain will get it. How this happens, they don't really know yet, but it has been shown more and more. And so if you want to be a coach or a psychologist like me, or a consultant, one of the most important things you can do to become much more impactful, to sell more, you have to live what you teach, what you sell. For salespeople, exactly the same. If you if you sell a health thing, make sure you are absolutely healthy. Yeah. So
Good
that
luck.
my first goal is that, like, we're making this now. We want to make at least 10, 15 high-end coaches. We want to bring them to the next level. Then besides that, a longer term goal is, I'm writing a book, From Heartbreak to Hero, whereby people can learn how to take the stress and the intense pain of heartbreak into the source that they will use to reinvent themselves and to grow into much more of what they have potential for.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Nico, and looking forward for more and more success. What will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be a coach like you, want to be a psychotherapist like you?
Well, I think one of the things is important. Learn to become emotionally non-reactive in life. That doesn't mean that you suppress your emotions. No, quite the opposite. So when you learn to, well, I will do it in simple thing. The first thing that you need to learn is that nobody owes you anything. Life owes you nothing. So then, that when that lack of attachment goes, then anger will go away. Because then everything that you get, every moment, becomes a gift. That's a great shift. Just realizing that you are owed nothing. That also awakens in you the responsibility to do anything with your life, to take full responsibility of your life. That's one. The second is, again, many people, when we're talking like you and me, it's very easy to be good in talking and to be in line with yourself. But when you get into very intense emotional situations, it's a whole other thing, because your more primitive parts of your brain take over. And if we don't pause, then we do things that we're not proud of at all, or we try to run away from it. But if you want to impact people with change, to become a real good psychologist or coach, you have to have what I call, you have to have nuts. You have to have the guts to tell people what they do not want to hear. You have to be able to hold the space when people are absolutely angry with you, or crying or sad. Of course, you don't have to just put salt on the wound all the time, but like sometimes that's needed. So it's about learning to connect with somebody and hold your frame, hold a container. It's a bit of a challenge, and it comes with experience, of course. But we want to be deeply connected with people because that will help people change their behaviors. But we don't want to take it on. We don't. Yeah, so we need to learn how to not take what happens to our clients or people around us personal. And then it helps also because then if you take things personal and you then hear something that you do not vibe with, if somebody has a completely different opinion, some psychologists or some coaches, then they try to like manipulate you to the clients to go in line with what they believe. Well, I don't have it at all. I know my ideas are just that, ideas, maps of the world that are incomplete, that are based on my personal experience and personal knowledge, and that are true and not true. They're my truth, okay, but if I have my truth and I know I am biased, I know I have my limits, I know I have a specific limited vision and limited amount of experience and knowledge, well, then I'm open for growth. And then I can communicate with people that have extremely different opinions and meanings and beliefs. And I can still help them to really come to a more enriched model of the world. That's why I really believe that sometimes conflict, for sure, in relationships, intimate relationships, can be the one of the best things for your intimacy if you both have the guts and the mental fortitude to stay connected while you say yes and your partner screams no, but you stay connected. You stay connected with the person, you stay connected with the love that you share. And that's the emotions. When you get really angry or frustrated, it's because you care about this person. And they think differently, so you have a clash of mental frames, you have a clash of maps of the world. And so when we learn to not take, not identify with our maps of the world, and not identify other people with their maps of the world, in that moment we have a great opening to mutually, by conflict, by talking, by fighting sometimes, get to a place where we both create an updated model of the world.
Very well said, Mr. Nico. Very well said. And thank you for your advice. Can you recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Yes. So as an author, all of his books are great. It's David Schnarch. He's a relationship sexual therapist, so he's one of the only ones that combine it. Now, why do I believe so much? I didn't talk about sexuality or intimacy at all now, but as a performance coach, I believe that's an area that so is ignored too much, because when you can hold your own without cutting other people off with the person that means most of you, you can do it everywhere. When you can master your behaviors, choose the kind of person you want to be, the kind of partner you want to be, then you can do it everywhere. I really believe it. And so, why is David Schnarch so good for me? Because he taught me the concept of adult intimacy, whereby you don't need each other, but you choose each other. But in order to do that, it's hard because you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and that can be scary. If your partner stands on her 2 feet, she can choose to walk away, or she can choose to stay. Now, this in a relationship, but when we do this, for me, the most grown up way to communicate and to relate with other people is to dare to say no to a request and to continue saying yes to your relationship, which is like a paradox, but I truly believe, and I've seen it many times, whether it's in love relationships or in business or in sales, when you're able to do that, when you start, instead of fighting different opinions, but start to become curious how they came to those opinions, start to ask questions, and start to really become absolutely interested in trying to step into the world of other people, in that moment, magic happens.
Well, indeed, totally, I believe in magic, Mr. Nico. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season as well. Comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 fourth season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101 and Law 101. Love Letters in third season, Movie 101 review and Music 101 and fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Nico, what are unconventional habit that turns stress into your greatest business ally?
When you're leading a team, require them every week to criticize you. Really make sure that people get rewarded for challenging the status quo. But do it, of course, in a way that is constructive. You have to give them a structure so they don't just attack you because then you get reward. That's counterproductive. But it's really powerful if you can create a team whereby intellectual conflict gets stimulated, intellectual sparring gets stimulated, but then the interpersonal relationship gets strengthened, whereby you start to differentiate between ideas and the relationship. That is a powerful key of the highest performing teams, that when they can talk even really passionate, and even some it will even sound like almost war, but then it's very after the fact, after the meeting they just go and play sport together, for example. This is what you want. You want people to not take anything personal when it comes to the space of business, and then really make sure that they are personal one to another when it comes to their business relationships.
Very well said again, Mr. Nico, and thank you so much for your sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your coaching, and your advocacy to the world?
Yes. Well, the best is just to find me on Instagram, Nico underscore Verresen, or my Facebook, which is also just Nico Verresen with my face. Uh, I also have a website, but I'm updating my websites of my project with the boys and of my new for my new book. But the best thing is just to follow my socials and contact me there if you want to hear more.
Yes, people, Mr. Nico, let's support him for this upcoming book. Looking forward for that, Mr. Nico, and you are most welcome review. And plus, people, let's support Miss Nico Verresen, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering upcoming books to come, more and more empowering coaching to come, and for sure, more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Nico, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.